Yep. This is my prayer sword. And I wanted to give my boys a legacy of prayer in their life. And so I would tell them whenever I left, guys, look, man, when I'm leaving, it was one thing, anytime that the kids woke up, and if my prayer sword was in their room in the morning, and then Dad was in there fighting for them in the middle of the night. That was what it meant. I mean, I was in there praying for them. They're all grown up now, and I want to tell you, when both of my boys turned 16, I gave them their own sword, and I said, fight with your dad. Fight for our family. Fight for your family. Be a man of prayer. Get on your knees and fight like a man. Here's your own prayer sword. To recognize you as grown up. Brother John Ledbetter came out and spoke words over them. My dad came out and spoke words over them. We had men that they respected that came out and said, we see you and you're grown up. You know, boys grow up not hearing their daddies tell them, hey, I respect you as a man. And it's really important that we do the best that we can for the young men that are around us. For those that have dads and for those that don't have dads, that we be father figures to them. We say, hey, I see who you are, and you're a fine young man. Whereas the Father spoke into Jesus' life, this is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased. The first thing that the Father ever spoke into Jesus' life, before he ever did one single miracle, he had a public announcement of the Father's appreciation for the Son. So whatever issue Jesus was going to have, it wasn't going to be a daddy issue. This is my prayer sword. I just got through writing a book that's going to come out in June at the Momentum Conference in the month of June. It's called Living Life Forward. And there's chapter 4 is on the subject that you and I are discussing right now. And I tell this story that I learned when I was in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was in the very room when this actually happened. I was where Robert the Bruce on his deathbed in 1327. Robert the Bruce, the great freedom fighter for the Scottish people, was about to die. And while people are playing bagpipes and singing patriotic songs, and women are crying, scribes are writing down little things, he turns to his faithful right-hand man, a guy by the name of Douglas, and he says, Douglas, help me. I die. And in a few moments, whenever I do die, I want you to cut out my heart, and I want you to take it to Jerusalem, Israel. And I want you to bury my heart in Jerusalem. It's like, okay, that's no small thing. I mean, it's 1327. I'm going to have to fight through the Moors and the Serbians. I'm going to have to, yeah, no problem. I'll be happy to do that. I mean, guys, that is it. Man, that's like Woodrow McCall bringing Gus all the way back to Texas.
Yes. Amen.
Right? Yes. This is way more radical than that. And so he says he would. And Sir Robert the Bruce, the King of Scotland, died at the very old age of 52 years old. An old man for the 1300s. And he died, and as women began to mourn, and as people began to cry, and as the songs and bagpipes began to change, to everybody's horror, Douglas leapt on top of the body of his king, opened up his chest, plunged a dagger into his chest, and began to saw open his ribs. Took his ribs out, threw them across the room, reached in and grabbed his heart and said, behold, the heart of the king. And with blood all over him, literally holding the physical heart of Robert the Bruce, he walked through the streets of Edinburgh and went straight to a blacksmith and said, I want this encased in lead. And he encased it in lead, and he put a chain on it, and he put it around his neck and said, I have the heart of the king with me now. Douglas put together a band of crazy people that decided to get on their horse and take on the Moors and the Saracens and to fight their way all the way from Scotland all the way to Jerusalem. And they got all the way to Spain. And when they got in Spain, they got involved in a battle called the Battle of Tibur. And man, it was a fierce, horrible battle. And in the midst of the fray, Douglas found himself surrounded by the enemy. Him and his brave knights, they were surrounded by the enemy in hand-to-hand combat. They were the only ones on mounts, and everybody else was not on horses. And he's literally up on a horse. He's trying to, and he's just fighting. And he looks, and here comes a whole other group of Moors, which meant they would all soon be dragged from their mounts. And because they were leaders, they would die hideous, horrible, and painful, long, ugly deaths. And in the midst of that, it looked like there was no hope left whatsoever. Sir Douglas took off Sir Robert the Bruce's heart from off of his neck. And like a hammer at the Olympic, he began to swing it around his head. And he threw it into the enemy. And he leapt off of his horse and he stood over Robert the Bruce's heart and he screamed to his men, "Fight for the heart of your king!" And they all jumped off of their horses and surrounded Sir Douglas and they beat the enemy. The momentum changed and they won the day.
Amen.
That is a true story. I was in the very room, the first time I ever heard this story, I was in a castle in Edinburgh while this guy was telling this legendary story in the very room where that happened. And I went, God, help me to be somebody who fights for your heart.
Amen.
There's a game-changing side of God that shows up where everything changes. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the heart of Jesus himself that changes everything. We're like, man, I didn't know God was like that. I didn't know. Now I know. And now I'm willing to fight. Jehovah Nissi, the game changer, the momentum changer, the Lord is our banner, shows up on your battlefield. And he doesn't go, well, I don't know if this is the battle I ought to be on or not. No, if you're in it, he has decided he wants to be on that battlefield. Well, yeah, Pastor, I've made a lot of bad choices that got me here. If you're in it, he has decided he wants to be on your battlefield. For you to see God in your battle changes